Derivative of inverse functions. If you let g of x be the inverse function of f of x, then we have the rule g prime of x is equal to 1 over f prime of g of x, where the denominator f prime of g of x cannot equal 0. And go ahead and add this to your list of rules. Okay, let's look at an example. Given f of x is equal to the square root of x minus 4, find g prime of 2. So think about it. What are some things that we're going to need in order to find g prime of 2? And the rule is g prime of x is equal to 1 over f prime of g of x. Hopefully, one of the things that you're thinking of is that we need to find g of x. Or in this case, g of 2. Because if we're looking for g prime of 2, then this rule pretty much ends up saying that g prime of 2 is equal to 1 over f prime of g of 2. So we need to find g of 2, which is the same as f inverse of 2. These two are the same thing. Whether you write g of 2 or f inverse of 2, they're the same thing. But I'm going to stick with f inverse of 2 just because if you recall from your previous math classes, if you have y equals f of x, then to find the inverse, you just interchange your x and your y, and that's how you find the inverse. Well, now what I have here is x is equal to f inverse of 2. Well, if I interchange my x and my y, or my x and my 2, I have 2 is equal to f of x. This over here is kind of like a side note, but that 2 equals f of x, this I can use because this over here was pretty much a side note, but 2 equals f of x, this I can use because at the beginning the problem gave us that f of x equals the square root of x minus 4. So what we pretty much have here is that 2 equals the square root of x minus 4. So we'll go ahead and square both sides. So we have 4 equals x minus 4. And when we add 4 to both sides, we have x equals 8. So what we found here is that when x equals 8, f of x equals 2. So we have the point 8, 2 on x, f of x. So if we interchange the 8 and the 2, we have the point 2, 8 on x, f inverse of x. And using this, we know that f inverse of x is equal to 8, or in this problem we're using g to represent the inverse, so g of 2 is equal to 8. Alright, so we found one piece of information that's going to help us find g prime of 2. So to find g prime of 2, we're going to replace this with an 8. So let's see. This is what we pretty much have now. G prime of 2 is equal to 1 over f prime of 8. Now we need to find f prime before we can find f prime of 8. But our overall goal is to find f prime of 8. And we're going to use f of x equals the square root of x minus 4. So if we know that f of x equals the square root of x minus 4, what's f prime of x going to equal? Pause the video and try that. And hopefully you got 1/2 times x minus 4 to the negative 1/2, which is the same as 1 over 2 radical x minus 4. Alright, so now that we have the derivative, this makes finding f prime of 8 a lot easier. We just plug in 8 for x. So we have 1 over 2 radical 8 minus 4, which is 1 over 2 times radical 4, which is 1 over 2 times 2, which finally gives 1/4. Now, be careful. The answer, g prime of 2, is not 1/4. What we're going to do is we're going to plug 1/4 in the denominator for f prime of 8. So we're looking at 1 over 1/4, which gives us 4. So g prime of 2 is equal to 4. So this is the main idea. We'll look at more examples in class. Make sure you add this new derivative rule to your list. And that concludes the video.